You're tuned in to the Restaurant RockStars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Hey there, it's Roger back at you with the Restaurant RockStars Podcast. You know, this episode is all about moving past COVID-19. We've talked so much about not just surviving this thing, but putting our business in the best position to move forward. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to think about expanding our concept and franchising. In this episode, I'm speaking to Mr. Anthony Leone from QSR Franchise Development Group. Now, Anthony is an industry veteran. You know, he's been with some of the most recognized, biggest names in the franchise business, multi-unit concepts, and now he helps others translate their business model into a new franchise model. We're going to talk all about the importance of systems and what you need to do to put your operation in the best position to grow it. We're going to talk about best practices. We're going to talk about the legal ramifications and what you need to do to put yourself in the best legal situation while saving yourself lots of money on attorney's fees. We're also going to talk about pricing your franchise and what royalties should be, as well as, purchase agreements, all the ins and outs. There's so much detail here, so don't miss this episode. It's a big one. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant RockStars Podcast. And as you know, these are engaging topics that help restaurants build their brands, rock their profits, deliver amazing guest service experiences. And now it's about how you can take a successful concept, if you're thinking about this, and turn it into a franchise. That might be your dream. It might be an exit strategy for you. It might be the next step in your restaurant. So I'm really excited today to introduce Mr. Anthony Leone, and he is the founder of a company called QSR Franchise Development Group. Welcome to the show, Anthony. How are you?
Roger, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, this is a particularly relevant episode, and I know we're in the midst of the worst crisis ever to hit this industry, but we're all thinking about what's next, what's down the road. And right now, it's critical to put systems in place, if they're not already there in our business, to come out on the other side, not just surviving this thing, but to have a real plan for the future and an exit strategy. And that may be the next plan. If you've got systems in place, and we're going to talk about this, franchising is an opportunity to turn a brand into a much larger brand. It could start regionally, it can go national, it can go even international. The sky's the limit, and you are the key to that because you're a true expert. So let me start, Anthony. I mean, you've got a long, illustrious career in restaurants and hospitality. Where did it all begin for you? I know you have a degree in hospitality management, but did it start before that? Take us on your journey.
Yes, Roger, absolutely. It started before that. I started working, washing dishes, 14, 15 years old, just trying to make some money during high school. Sometimes life finds you, Roger. And to make a long story short, I was going to Nassau Community College before I went to Florida International University at a hospitality management degree. And I always knew I wanted hospitality management. At first, I actually thought I wanted to be in the hotel business, because who would not like to work at Cabo San Lucas or Hawaii or any good places like that?
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing night audit during the nights, and then going to school during the day. And I'll never forget, I was in a Union hotel, and I did my work about 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was done. And checkouts, it was at the LaGuardia Airport, and checkouts were coming at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I went to help the front desk person. I'll never forget, the manager pulled me aside and was like, "Anthony, come here, I need to speak to you. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? You see the line here? I'm helping out the, at the front desk person." And he's like, "Listen, we're a union hotel. We cannot do that. You're the night audit guy." And I said, "Well, what would you like me to do?" He's like, "I don't know, but you can't cross over." And I said, "Okay." The next night, I tried not to help the front desk person. And that didn't work out too well for me because I could not jump in.
I get it.
And so the next day I quit.
Oh my
and
God,
I couldn't. And then I fell into sort of restaurants and a little bit of management and so on and so forth. And I fell in love with it, Roger. I was never bored. I will always be straight up, but I was never, ever bored. And so I felt sometimes life chooses you. And so then I went on my career. I went to Florida International University for a hospitality management degree. Later on, I won the Torch Award, which is given to any of Florida International University has many colleges like law or restaurants, hospitality management, engineering, so on and so forth. So they pick one person every year out of all the years that they've been, open, that made a big contribution in that field. So I won that a couple of years back. After graduating hospitality management at FIU, I started a position at the time it was called Boston Chicken. I was hired as an assistant manager. 6 months later, I became a GM. And then 8 months later, I became the youngest district manager in the company. And I oversaw anywhere between 12 to 15 stores at 24, 25 years old. And I'm very grateful for that education because I really learned the right way. In our initial discussion, Roger, we talk about food cost and cost of goods and the way to break it down into each category so you could troubleshoot it better. Mm-hmm. And I learned that way through their system. And now I see a lot of people talking about variance, and they don't know how to know the numbers behind the numbers. After Boston Market, I did that for about 7 years. I got recruited again to work for a company called Ranch One in the city. I ran a full-service restaurant for a year to see how I would do with that. And what I learned there was management. Whether you're managing, someone older or an 18-year-old college kid, you need to lead by example, and your tenants need to be black and white, and there's no gray area. And you might handle people differently, but the message is still the same. And then I've always been into working out and eating healthy, and so I saw a niche in the market. And back in 1997, I opened up a concept called Energy Kitchen, where we steamed, baked, and grilled everything. Nothing was fried. Everything was under 500 calories. And we started out with one store at 24 John Street downtown. These times we're going through a lot of stuff in the world, and I could totally relate being an operator and how important it is to pivot and move your business. I was a block away from 9/11. We saved about 10 or 11 people that day. Those two iconic pictures or videos of the towers crashing and all the building debris coming down, that was my block. And so being such a workaholic and being in the restaurant business, September 12th was the worst day for me because I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do. And so after rebounding and doing different things, like I developed something called Power Plates, where I put about 200 meals into my Mazda MX-6, and I delivered to Staten Island, Long Island, the boroughs, and delivered to gyms, and bought them a little freezer and a little POP behind it, and to just keep cash flow going till we found the next location. Wow. And then I started to build up Energy Kitchen. We started out with one. Smart. We built about 8 or 9 different corporate stores, and then we went to have proof of concept, and then we franchised them and got up to about 25 stores, corporate stores, franchise stores, and non-traditional sites like St. John's University or Fordham University, or those kind of sites in food courts and colleges. And then I got out of the concept, and I became a COO of a company, overseeing 4 different concepts, legacy brands, over 16 different states, and tried to turn around those brands. And then during that time, I was getting calls from friends and people that in the business saying, Anthony, listen, I'd like for you to help me, with this or with that. And so I decided then to start a consulting firm. And I've been doing that really ever since, helping different concepts. And everyone has different issues. And so no matter what their problem is or their issue is, I will hone in on that and try to come up with solutions and then expand from that to scale the brand.
That is an incredible story. Everything from, 9/11 to, going back really to helping out the front desk when you were the night auditor. And what really rings clear to me is you have a true passion. You have a strong work ethic. You understand the true meaning of the word hospitality and what service is all about. And that was the overriding driving influence in your life that led you through this career. And just being so immersed in so many aspects of the industry and all the incredible people that you must have met along the way, and now the incredible knowledge base that you've sort of accumulated to now help others to move their business forward. So that's an incredible story. It took fortitude, it took initiative, and I think the underlying burning fire in your belly was that passion for the business and for hospitality and for service and for, this incredible industry. And now, during the worst of it, no one could have ever anticipated what would, turn out to be this horrible crisis affecting our industry. But now it's all about how can we help each other to get out the other side? And again, not just survive this thing, but really succeed. So I think that's amazing. Okay, so let's move on. You specialize, you now have a company and it's called QSR Franchise Development Group, and that's exactly what you do. But you got several different branches of that company, and you definitely specialize in different areas to help companies through different aspects of all of those things. So could you give us an overview of that and what you really do and, some of the things that your firm specializes in?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we really honed in on QSRs, quick service restaurants,
right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer that you can't specialize in everything, okay? If you're, everything to everyone, then you're nothing really to no one, okay? And so we really wanted to hold in the quick service restaurant. It's what we've been doing now for many years. Like I've been doing it over 30 years, and I have a team of people that have been in it as well in different aspects of it. And so what we do is, people will come up to us from anywhere from, hey, Roger, I have an idea for a concept. I don't know what to do with it. I make these great brand muffins or whatever it is. I would need your help. So then we would get them involved with, name the concept, put a vision in your head, try to get it extremely clear in your head, because the clearer you see the vision of the concept coming in, the more apt it is to come through fruition. And you have a direct path
Agreed.
Into what you want to do with the concept. This is no, this is yes, as far as the tenets of the brand goes. So we've had people come up to us and say, hey, I just have an idea, I don't know where to go. And we'll get them into logo, branding, tagline, menu development, aesthetics of the restaurant, design, so on and so forth. We handle everything from franchise sales to real estate development to finding people real estate to helping out with operations and training, marketing systems. Really anything that the quick service restaurant would need to do to come up with a concept if that's where they're at. Well, really what we specialize is emerging brands where they have a few stores, okay, but need to scale it to become a franchise or become a brand. And we take you all the way through, all right, to the whole concept. And we've even had calls to say, Anthony, listen, we need to turn this concept around to sell it. And so we'll help them turn it around, put systems into place, and get it and then sell the store and get ready for sale and then sell it ourselves. And then everything in between manual writing, Roger, and everything in between, so to speak.
That's unbelievable. So people bring you ideas or they have established concepts right now, and obviously you work every step of the way. Are there specific concepts or menus that translate better to a franchise model, or could you literally take any concept and through the expertise of yourself and the others in your firm, turn it into something no matter what it is?
Yeah, both. Some concepts you looked at and they're just streamlined enough. Okay, yeah. They're using one ingredient in multiple different facets, okay, of their menu. They're smart, and we could just take that concept, tweak it a bit, put systems into place, and then try to scale it, okay? Just sort of touch it up a bit, okay, and get it ready. Put a sales deck out, press release, those kind of things to get it out there. And then we've had big concepts. We have a full-service concept now with a tremendous menu that had to pivot and did an amazing job going to curbside and, delivery and so on and so forth. And now they're looking to scale back the model, all right, to be more of a sort of QSR, small space looking for in the future as real estate deals pop up, and we get out of the COVID-19.
Is there any limit to the market areas that you serve? Is this a national thing? Are you international at this point?
No, I would say we brought international concepts over, okay, to launch them here. But right now we're really focused within the States. We can bring concepts here. We can take concepts out. It's a little bit more difficult, through the FTD and the franchise disclosure, getting them, franchise ready in other countries. But really our focus is nationwide here in the States.
So when you have an initial meeting or several meetings with a potential client, and we're talking about all these systems, do you do some sort of a deep dive analysis into their business to see what exists now, what needs to be, and then you help them systemize, all the aspects before we even go down the road of writing manuals and getting into the legalities? It's literally, okay, you've got something here, I see it, but you're not taking inventory. You don't know what your costs are, all that kind of stuff. Your marketing needs to go to the next level. The whole program needs to be a package before you can even begin to interest anybody else, right?
Absolutely. As I talk to the potential client, I want to know what their pain points are. All right, because listen, this business is not rocket science. Okay, I'm in it, Roger. That's how you know that. Okay.
Self-deprecating. Right? Way to go, Anthony.
Yes.
Keep going.
But all kidding aside,
I get it. You're a humble guy.
Yes, but there's a system, or I've seen something, or I could always call up somebody out there that knows, that specializes in that particular area. So yes, I'll do a deep dive. I'll talk about what's your biggest pain point. All right. If I could help you in one thing right now, what would that be? But then I will get into, all right, let's talk about operations. Let's talk about onboarding. How do you bring person in? How do you set them up? How do you set them up for success? Let's talk about training. Let's talk about human resources. Let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about all these different aspects, building a bench, okay? As far as we grow, to build from within. And I'll touch on sort of finance. Show me your P&Ls, show me where your food cost of goods is. As I look for different concepts to have food, paper, and labor at 55, 60%, that's what I'm trying to get to build a good franchise model.
Okay, that begs the question of all the different aspects, and there's so many facets to what we're talking about here. How much of it could be cookie cutter, turnkey, templated versus I got to create this from scratch because this model is different from the model you just helped succeed? You know what I mean? Like there's got to be templates for some of this stuff. Otherwise, I guess the time would take forever and the cost would be astronomical to reinvent every step of the way, right?
Absolutely. Listen, we have a lot of templates out there. Your program's amazing, Roger. The Academy is phenomenal. And I highly recommend it to everyone. There's a lot of templates out there. You don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of the operators out there, they don't know what they don't know. They had a great idea or they made a great something. They got into business. And now it's like sort of consuming them. And they see they have a potential to really scale it. And they don't want it to not reach its potential. And so they know they need to get somebody in there to show them the way. But they just don't know how to do, let's say, for your point, inventories, break it down into cost of goods, troubleshoot, do hard inventories or take it from there and things like that. So teaching them and showing them really simple systems that are duplicatable is key. And a lot of them are out there already.
Yes. And it's going to free up their time because I guess my next question is, I've got this idea, I've got this passion to take this to 10, 20, 100 units across the country or even start regionally, whatever. I want to expand my business. I think it's franchisable. And once I have these systems in place, do I need somebody else to spearhead this, to take charge of it like an expert? Or can I, as the owner-operator, somehow separate myself from my business and empower my people to run it as if they owned it, and then I'm the guy? Because this is the business of 1,000 details. There's so many balls in the air at any given time, and it's going to take so much of my time and focus and energy to step aside to move it to the next level. Can an owner-operator do that? Do you need a specialized person that has the expertise somewhere in between? Take a GM and promote them into this and say, hey, you've done a great job running these stores, whatever. Now, here's your next challenge. What do you suggest?
Listen, absolutely yes, but I do think you need someone leading the way because in your instance here, the GM and the owner don't know the steps to get to where they need to get to or what they need to have in place. There's an incredible book out there called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Okay. And in the E-Myth, it talks about a lady that had a great business making cupcakes or something like that. And he gives examples. And then she opens up the business and starts to hate it because she's doing payroll. She's got the landlord, all these other things. And it gets her off what her passion was on making the product, So, yes, I would highly recommend bringing in someone like myself because your learning curve is going to be accelerated because I've been through it before. I know exactly, or our company, QSR Franchise Development Group, knows exactly what needs to be in place for you to grow and scale the brand. Let me give you another example. When we have potential franchisees, coming in, you as the owner should not be answering the phone, vetting them, those kind of things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the owner, Roger, you need someone like myself to make sure that this potential franchisees qualify. They have the money. They have the operation experience because, your name is on that door, okay? Mm-hmm. Even though someone else opens it.
Absolutely.
So you need to know, that they have the operation, they have the experience, they're not going to run out of money. They have the bandwidth to do this, okay? But as potential franchisees come in, I want them to jump through some hoops with me first, qualify them, have an interview with me, have an interview, let's say, with somebody else before they get to you. I call the owner the grand poobah, because this franchisee needs to jump through a couple of hoops, and I'll be like, Roger's very busy, He's only got, this time slot. And so, it's an honor to meet you. But this person has shown that this potential franchisee has shown the initiative and the drive to be part of that company.
That's go ahead.
If not, I'm sorry, Roger. If not, the owner will be wasting a lot of time with a lot of tire kickers.
So that is an interesting point because there are clearly qualified people out there, and there are clearly a lot of wannabe hopefuls. People that have this idea like, wow, how glamorous is the restaurant business? And I see how successful all these, and I want to do that. And I'm tired of working for, my 50-hour-week job. And I'm going to cash in my 401k and I'm going to start a franchise. And you can see in the pages of Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur, there's dozens of pages of potential franchise opportunities out there. And people get excited by this, but they have no operating experience in this business. And you have to vet them. And somehow some people you got to take a chance on because they may look good on paper or they may not. But you see that burning drive and you see them jumping through the hoops and you see that they might have the potential. And you got to make a critical decision here, right? Because again, your name is on the door and you've got to build a track record of success with the first franchise, the second franchisee, the third, and on before you can continue to build that model. Because if you've got a failure, number one or number two, and people are doing their due diligence on your company too, and you can't say, oh yeah, everyone who's come into this fold has done very well because everything is so dialed, right? And the critical piece is that potential person.
Absolutely. The first couple are so critical, Roger, because if you get and you are successful, then these franchisees that just opened, they're your biggest mouthpiece. They're your biggest sort of marketing. But if you get out of the gate and you don't start right, then you're behind the eight ball. And it's a different skill set, Roger, from becoming an owner, like a mom and pop owner, 1 unit, 2 units. It's a totally different skill set to managing people. You're now in the franchise business. You're not in the burger business or restaurant business anymore. It's a different skill set. So you need that general manager, which you've trained up to run that store, hold them accountable, inventory, labor, food cost, all that kind of stuff, all right? But then grow the brand and keep your eye on growing the brand while your managers are in places. So I call it sort of aces in places.
For sure. And that is critical to leadership. And you mentioned earlier the importance of leading by example. This also leads to the franchise agreement, which is the most important document ever. And it's got to be it's got to be like a Chinese phone book because of all the detail that's in there. And somebody coming in needs to be so well versed in everything that it says, because it is a legal contract between the franchisor and the franchisee. And that's where all these potential lawsuits happen. And it's like, you got to make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. Obviously, that's a cliche, but you know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. And, that's a legal document. Is that somewhat templated and somewhat customized?
Yes, first I would say absolutely you need to use a franchise attorney to read through this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. They specialize in this, and even hiring someone like us at QSR Franchise Development Group to look at it, because we know what paragraphs we're looking at, what different phrases. We've seen a lot of them, But it's a daunting document without a doubt. I mean, you are basically marrying this person, for the next 10 years, whatever the contract it is. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you have every clause or every sort of hypothetical situation that you possibly could think of on that document to protect you.
Got to see around corners somehow. And the unexpected is around the next corner. You can't possibly anticipate, but you do have the benefit of history and experience. And you've seen a lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff goes sideways that you can now, coach mm-hmm. people past by putting these critical things in place. So let's talk about the legalities here, because you may bypass a lot of the need for legal work. I mean, yes, you're going to need a franchise attorney to do some work to put things in place. But in terms of, having a attorney at $250 an hour start drafting documents, I mean, this is going to be a hugely expensive process, but you could save them all of that time and expense by cutting some of that out and only having the attorney there where it's absolutely necessary. Am I, is that correct?
Yes, well, listen, someone like myself can scrub through it, give you the high points, but I would definitely, reach out to a franchise attorney, have them read it. You can negotiate rates with them, either let's say an all-in to negotiate the document with the franchisor opposed to an hourly basis. I like that better. Every time I talk to you, Roger, I don't want to, see the hourglass be turned over. And if we start talking about, like my Mets or something like that, I'm on the clock. I enjoy talking to, a lot of people, so I want one rate. And that's what I would recommend, just to negotiate one rate. So if you have questions or you can go in and you don't feel like, you have to hurry up and get off the phone.
Great. Absolutely. So maybe a flat fee for the services. Correct. And a not to exceed, because you make it very clear what your needs are and the attorney says, yes, okay. And they don't try to put you on retainer for months in advance and all that sort of thing. And that's the way to get what you need, not overpay for it if you pick the right person. So you obviously have a network then of franchise attorneys and all the other people that you can then farm that piece out to, I'm sure.
Absolutely. They're all specialists,
in
their own particular area, and they're only a phone call away. And typically what I would do is, I would put 3 of, let's say, franchise attorneys in front of them. Okay. And let them choose, let them interview, each one and see who they feel best with. That way, they're not, they're picking their choice. I vetted out for them over the years. These 3 franchise attorneys, they can interview them. I could be on the phone. They could vet them out, and they could choose the one that they like the best.
Now, it's pretty common knowledge. I mean, there's been so many, franchises that have started, and they run into the problem that, the franchisee thinks they have a better way of doing things, and they try to bypass certain standards, best practices that have already been put in place, right? I mean, I know you've seen this over and over again, and sometimes that's what causes a lawsuit. Is there any flexibility in a contract to say, if you bring us your idea, maybe it is a better way of doing it, and we'll look at it and we'll either approve it or deny it? Does that ever happen?
Of course, absolutely. But what I would recommend the franchisor to do is put a system into place. So if some of the best ideas come from franchisees, because they're on the front line, they're in the field. It's not someone in a corporate office that, is managing, HR and, all these other departments. And so I would recommend some sort of system. What I've done in the past is this. If you have an incredible idea, Roger, please email us the idea, okay? We will then, as a group, okay, sit down and discuss it, okay, and then discuss it with you. And if we think it's excellent, we're going to roll it out sort of company-wide, all right? If it's, regional, just to your section, maybe we do it all within your region, and we test it, something to that effect. But if it's a great idea, I want the whole company to share in it, not just yourself, and then bonus you for the great idea, give you something for your efforts. Absolutely. Because everybody shares in it then. The whole company wins.
Absolutely right. So there's got to be a huge marketing piece to this, right? Because one, you may have started with 1 or 2 or 3 units. You decide to franchise it. Maybe you're well known in your market area, but then a franchisee either was traveling and tried your food and said, wow, this is incredible. And I see an opportunity, 3 states away, and I want to do this thing. And the people in that, state, a couple states away, have never heard of this brand. And now you've got to be the brand builder, the marketer to create something from nothing, even though it's already been something somewhere else. I mean, obviously you help with that too, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Absolutely. Yes, when you start a new market, I try to sort of what I call cluster the stores. So I know you're in Maine, I'm in New York. I would do something like the Northeast, go from, New York to Philly to Boston, somewhere that it's all in a drive area so I could get to it, or my representatives could get to it fairly easy if there's a problem. When you go into new territories, even if someone bought a 20-store deal, you still got to open up with 1. And there's a lot of sometimes trouble with managing the freight lines. If you have a lot of proprietary products, now you're putting proprietary products in a single, what I call OPCO, whether it's, from these broadliners, Cisco, US Foods, PFG, whatever they are, but you only have 1 item in there for your 1 store. So you got to buy minimums, they got to hold it, all so on and so forth. The less proprietary items that your company can have, the better off you'll be in expanding and scaling, when you get into different markets.
All right, that's a perfect segue into determining, say, the price of a franchise model and the royalties that are charged and what products actually get purchased from the parent company, because these are all additional profit centers for your franchise. And if things are done correctly, then suddenly your buying power, your economies of scale, your leverage, all those things go up, and you can literally make money off your franchisees by, okay, there's the advertising fee because you now have a standard marketing program, the website, the ads, the marketing that is proven to work is just one piece. Then there's the royalties that you pay, perhaps off sales of a unit. And then there's the product purchasing. I mean, that must vary from franchise to franchise, but there is a basic core model there that you start with?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Yes, franchise fees vary, royalties vary. But the basic core model is you have a royalty, okay? Typically, it's around 6%, something around there, okay? You have an upfront franchise fee in which you pay, okay, for all the systems and everything else that we've worked on for all these years, like what POS to use, what tile to buy, what chairs to buy. All that should be given to you. That's why you're buying a franchisee, not sort of to reinvent the wheel. Then there's a local ad fund, okay, and then there's a brand fund. The local ad fund is on the franchisee to spend in their local market. And so what I've done in the past is, just getting receipts on a monthly basis from the franchisee, showing that they're doing advertising, the 1% that was in our documents, 1% of their sales, their gross sales, spending in their area. And then another 1% we had for the brand fund, which we would help build on websites or limited time offers, LTOs, or something that is company-wide. Maybe some press, hire a PR person that will help with the company overall instead of just that local market. So that's pretty much consistently what the formula is, but the percentages change depending on the concept.
Okay, so you mentioned the 6% as a sort of baseline, of the royalty fee. How about pricing the model itself and what the value of that is worth to someone who comes in, the investment for the systems, for the concept, for all that kind of stuff? I mean, how is that determined based on the success of the first model or several models when they exist, and then the owner decides, I'm going to franchise this thing and I've had so much success in so many areas and these are my annual sales and that sort of thing? I mean, is that a starting point or is it a whole different formula?
Not so much. I would just say that, we would come in then if we were hired and value engineer it, Roger.
Okay.
All right. So here you got 2 or 3 stores. Okay. But let's look at your equipment package. Let's look at your flow. Let's look at your whole operation and really streamline it to make it, duplicatable for someone that doesn't have a lot of operating experience that we can train. So we would then take a look at everything: menu mix, product mix, the menu, the psychology of the menu. I mean, everything. We would take apart sort of internally the concept and see if there's better ways or better equipment to actually scale the concept.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So let's talk about the standards and how these are enforced. And there must be so many, because that movie comes to mind, The Founder. I'm sure a lot of the audience has seen it. The classic story of Ray Kroc and McDonald's, and he's going door to door and he's knocking on doors trying to sell mixers, and he's getting really frustrated doing this because everyone's got a story why I don't need that mixer, even though it's a better sort of thing. That might have been the first system, right? You can make 10 milkshakes at a time instead of 1, but nonetheless. He sees this concept for the burgers that's fairly dialed, and like you said, it's not about the burger, it's about the systems. He sees that all that is dialed and he takes it to the next level, and he creates arguably the biggest, most well-known, most successful company in the industry. And then he starts selling franchises. Before any of that happens, he's now selling franchises, and people are bringing in chicken, and they're trying to do this and they're trying to do that. And their cleanliness standards aren't there. Like, he visits one of his locations and there's like trash in the parking lot spilling out of the garbage cans and, all that kind of stuff. So there are certain standards that need to be enforced. And obviously you can't be in all places at once. You mentioned, okay, there's a check and balance system on the advertising spend, but there's got to be so many other, there's got to be 100 things that you need to check on all the time to make sure that all the standards are being met, because again, it reflects on the original concept. How does that happen?
There's no substitute, Roger. You're an operator than being in the stores.
Yeah, exactly.
As much as we have cameras these days and everything else, there is not. So it's very important that at least at a very minimum, corporate is at that location or with the franchisee once a quarter. I'm pretty adamant about that because, and then you go through the protocol, what I call a QSC, quality service and cleanliness checklist, okay? And to make sure that they're operating to our standard. And if they, dip below that, then we coach and counsel them to get up to that standard. We all want, clean, great looking restaurants that serve great food with an incredible atmosphere and very hospitable and people wanting to come back. And the public doesn't know if it's a corporate store or a franchise store. They just see the name on the top, So it's imperative that corporate gets out there and make sure that the franchisee is upholding the standard that you built your success on in the first original stores.
And accountability certainly has to be there. And then a certain expectation for the next visit, because they've already been through, maybe they've been held to the carpet on A, B, and C. They might be doing E, F, and G, okay. And now we know I'm looking for this the next time, and I want to make sure that all the other bases are covered. And this happens once a quarter, you say, roughly?
I would say minimum, if like I'm in New York City, if there was franchisee in New York City, I'd probably be there weekly. It depends on, the geography of it and how we could get to it and so on and so forth. So, I would say at least a minimum once a quarter I would recommend.
Okay, that's awesome. Let's go back to the branding and the marketing piece, because it's so critical that a franchise is uniform and consistent in terms of the way it looks, in terms of the aesthetic. I mean, there's lots of different locations. It might be a standalone. It might be a lease space in a strip mall. It might be all sorts of things. And somehow the exterior has to shout out that brand. And then you got to walk in, and the furniture and the signage and the colors and all that kind of stuff doesn't it have to be uniform? And
absolutely.
Are all those things sourced from different companies that take the template and create the furniture and the signage, or is it one company that now gets sourced to bring in all of those pieces? I'm sure there's companies out there that do that, right?
Listen, absolutely. You could buy like sort of a one-stop shop, but what I found best is, as we pick up the hood of the concept as we spoke of before and go into every aspect of it. Let's say chairs. You want the same chair in every restaurant. So you would put it out to bid. The type of chair you want. You would get the one vendor. And then when you bring on that franchisee to do the build out of the store, they're contacting that one vendor. So there's no chance for mistake. So I will tell you, okay, you're buying your tile from Dow Tile. This is the color. This is the SKU number. Here's the chair. Here's the piece. Here's the broiler. Here's the POS system. Everything then comes in a spec book. All right, which we deliver to you. So there, if you have questions, you could look at it. The vendor's name, the SKU number is there. So all you then have to do is order it. And what we do from corporately is once a week, we get during the build out phase to the franchisee, get on the phone, and we have a checklist each week of where you should be as time moves on. And it goes from 12 weeks out. Okay. And we talk to you. Okay. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? All right. You still have to do this. We can't go on to the next week until you get this done. So we have somebody checking in all the time to making sure you're on point with everything that you need to do.
Gotcha. Now, real estate is a critical decision. Okay, we've all heard location, and whether you're literally buying a space, you're leasing a space or whatever, that's another critical piece where someone from your firm literally scouts locations, and we do traffic studies, and we do ease of pulling into the parking lot and the availability of parking and the visibility from the street of the store. And all these things play in. What about the competition in the neighborhood? Is it a good thing because this is a destination where there's lots of, other restaurants, QSRs all over the place? Or is it better to be more remote from a lot of restaurants? All these things play in, and the real estate piece is one of the most critical decisions.
Absolutely. So we work with, a couple of great firms that give us what we call heat maps, and they tell us exactly like population and density and demographic studies and income levels and everything like that.
Sure.
And each concept is different. If you have a destination concept, like when we had an energy kitchen, people that lived the lifestyle of eating healthy would travel, a little bit, an extra block or two to get to our food. So we were taking spaces off the avenue, on the side street a little bit, just to get the lower rent, because it was a destination spot. It all really depends on the concept, and where they initially thrived. You try to replicate their biggest stores in the beginning and see what made them successful and replicate that as we build the brand.
I think that makes perfect sense. I love that word replication because, again, every aspect of what we're talking about is not about trying to find a better way in the beginning. It's about staying with the tried and true and looking at the trends, the statistics, and the proven, what's been done before, and not deviating from it and just going with the experts, because that's going to give someone the best chance for success. Let's talk about a timeline to this, and it's got to vary in depending on the situation. But let's just say I'm an operator. I got a couple of units. I got a hot idea. We sit down. You say, yep, I think you got something here. And yeah, your systems are fairly dialed. What's it going to take before we sit down the next time and before I'm ready to start selling this franchise? Are we talking about a year of time? Are we talking 8 months, 6 months? Is it typical? Is there any?
Not really, Roger, because every concept, every owner is in the same place. Is in different places. I apologize.
Of course. Yeah, that's right.
They're all in different places. And a lot of it depends on the owner on how much they want to push. How much they really want to grow, get out there. We can have all the systems into place, but then if they get cold feet or, they're hesitant, that might put a little, roadblock into the progress of the concept. So every situation is different. If they find a new spot, is it, was it an old restaurant? Is it a vanilla box? Is it a landmark building where you got to jump through a couple of more hoops, to get it up to par? All different things. You got to change the use, if it was something else prior. So timelines, then getting permits and things like that. It depends really what state you're in. If you're building out in Texas, it's a lot easier than maybe New York or some of these other municipalities.
Maybe we touched on this earlier, but I'm thinking, is it prudent to sell your first franchise to a strong potential operator and then give it time to develop and grow before you then sell another one? Do you prove the first one before you open the floodgates to vetting several people that are interested in this? I mean, what's prudent there?
Great point, Roger. Absolutely. Listen, when you're a corporate store and you're running it, yourself, you're running it, you're there. But now you've brought in a partner, so to speak, and a franchisee, and that's a different sort of element. It's a franchise store. So you want to work out the kinks there before you expand. You only get one chance, Roger, for a first impression. And it's extremely important that you come out of the gate, very strong and very well. You might mess up, but it's the way you react to messing up that is so important. Taking care of the guests, making sure that they're okay, no matter what, if the food was cold or whatever the issue was. But yes, I would wait a little bit of some time to work out the kinks of those franchise models, first before you start expanding. But you can sign some people up, 6 months out, a year out to lock into their territory, and then they know, and that gives them a little bit more ample time, to prepare.
That makes perfect sense. So you also are doing an in-depth analysis. Well, we talked about this earlier. You're looking really, really closely because you're vetting these potential people. You're looking over personal financial statements and assets and abilities to weather the storm if things don't take off. And you're going to need a certain amount of working capital in your store because undercapitalization is one of the biggest reasons for failure in this business.
Absolutely.
So people really need to be rock solid, not on the verge of, I got a dream and I've got the money to start it, and maybe 3 months of working capital, but after that, I'm tapped out, and that's not a good candidate.
That's not a good thing. And listen, if you're bringing in investors, okay, the worst thing you could do, Roger, is say, okay, your part of this investment is X, and then 3 months later saying, I need more money. That is a bad discussion. I much rather raise a little bit more money in the beginning, even though I don't think I don't need it, because coming to you as an investor the second time around, and especially such a short period of time,
right.
They question your ability to, manage it, so on and so forth, to bring it further. So I would definitely say, if you think you need X, raise more money, because
Absolutely.
you could always use that to marketing, other aspects of the business, to help you grow. It's very tough having a conversation with an investor a month or two out saying you blew through X amount first, we're having a capital call.
Absolutely true. This has been a really robust discussion, and we've covered a wide cross-section of this topic, but I'm sure I missed a few things. Is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't talked about that, that is relevant to franchising or what your company does?
Listen, I think we did an amazing job, Roger. It was an absolute pleasure being here. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me as well.
No, I think you handled everything that we did it with our customers. We enjoyed. They could find us at qsrfranchisedevelopmentgroup.com. My email is anthony@qsrfranchisedevelopmentgroup.com. I just think in the situation that we're in right now with COVID and everything else, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, and franchising, comes through these times pretty strong. People have lost jobs and it's extremely down there, but they might be looking to buy themselves a job in the future. And franchising is a great way to do that with a proven concept and a model.
That's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up because people are looking for plan B and options right now. And, if you think you've got what it takes to take your business to the next level, I think it's great. I'm going to put, obviously, your URL and your email into the show notes here. People will be listening to this, and I certainly recommend that they contact you because I can't imagine doing this without your services.
Roger, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure having you on the show. That was Mr. Anthony Leone from QSRFranchiseDevelopmentGroup.com. That was the Restaurant RockStars Podcast, and we will see you in the next episode. Guys, as always, thanks for listening. What an amazing episode, and what a great opportunity forward. If you've got a hot concept, it's worth talking to Anthony Leone of QSR Franchise Development Group. Maybe now is the time to think about expanding and growing. We've never had more time than during COVID-19 to plan and strategically move our business forward. So once again, I appreciate you listening to that. We also talked all about about the importance of systems. So don't forget, we have so many turnkey systems available at restaurantrockstars.com, things that'll help you put your business in the best financial position, the best staff training position, sales position, maximize profits, as well as marketing, and multiple opportunities there. Everything available at restaurantrockstars.com. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review on iTunes. We just started a new Facebook group called Restaurant RockStars Official, so please join at Restaurant RockStars Official, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant RockStars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.